Now, I don't normally talk about Call of Duty here on this channel, but this recent news regarding Call of Duty, and more specifically 2020's Call of Duty game that we can expect, I think really does warrant a video. And for those of you who are not aware, I'm sure there's a significant portion of you who are not aware, I was a big Call of Duty fan, and I say was because I've really fallen off. It's been a good while since I felt like Activision has actually brought out a what I would consider really good Call of Duty game. I'm a fan of first-person shooters, of course, but I kind of grew up playing Call of Duty. I'm talking about games like Modern Warfare 1, 2, and 3, and Black Ops 1 and 2. These games that were just, in my opinion, groundbreaking in a lot of ways, and they just did so many things right, and they were just honestly a lot of fun to play, especially the earlier games. The last time I actually had fun playing a Call of Duty game in recent memory was Modern Warfare Remastered. I actually put a lot of time into that game, and I think they did a really good job with it until they decided to add microtransactions because, it's Activision, and of course they just can't leave something be. But I will admit that their microtransaction system in Modern Warfare Remastered wasn't the worst, and it wasn't nearly as bad as it could have been, but still, it's a classic game. Just leave it be, right? But anyway, the news I'm talking about here, it comes from Kotaku, and it's basically talking about how the Call of Duty game we can expect to get in 2020 as of right now is kind of in shambles. It's a complete mess. And we know, at least most of us know, that the next Call of Duty game that's going to be announced is going to be a continuation of the Modern Warfare series. It's kind of been leaked, and at this point, all signs are pointing to that being the case. And frankly, I'm not going to lie to you guys, I'm pretty excited for that. I'm pretty excited for the idea of playing another Modern Warfare game. But the problem is I just don't have a lot of faith that it's going to be what I want it to be, because a lot of that excitement is nostalgia driven. I'm, playing a game like Modern Warfare Remastered. I'm thinking about games like Modern Warfare 2. And when we look at Activision's current business practices and the way they've handled the past, 5, 6 Call of Duty entries, and we see how it's just getting worse, of course, there's a lot of things that they could do to ruin Modern Warfare 4, and there's a good chance that they're going to do just that. So even though I am excited, I still don't have a lot of faith. It's this kind of conflict where I want to be excited and I just want it to be a great game, but at the same time, I know realistically speaking, it's probably not going to be what I want it to be, and that's unfortunate. But talking about this Kotaku article, it says next year's Call of Duty game has gone through a major upheaval as publisher Activision informed developers this week that studios Raven and Sledgehammer, which had until now led the project, will no longer be in charge. Instead, according to 3 people familiar with goings-on at the company, Treyarch will lead development on a new Black Ops for 2020. It's a significant shift for Activision's massive first-person shooter franchise, which is one of the most lucrative video game series on the planet. Every fall for the past 15 years, Activision has put out a new Call of Duty game supported by a stable of different developers who rotated duties as required since 2012. Activision has followed a 3-year cycle for its 3 lead studios, Infinity Ward, Treyarch, and Sledgehammer. The results have looked like this, and then they list all of the games that we've gotten over those the course of those years. For 2020, Activision had originally switched things up, assigning the Wisconsin-based support studio Raven to take a leadership role alongside Sledgehammer to make a Call of Duty game set during the Cold War, likely involving Vietnam. As of very recently, that's changed. Now Treyarch, based in Santa Monica, California, is in charge of leading Call of Duty Black Ops 5 for 2020. According to this briefed on the overhaul, Treyarch will take creative leadership on this new Black Ops, while Raven and Sledgehammer will serve as support studios for the game, transforming the work they've done on their own single-player story mode into a campaign for Black Ops 5, which will also be set during the Cold War. This may be a welcome return for fans who criticize the lack of campaign in Black Ops 4. It will likely be a cross-gen game to coincide with the launch of the next PlayStation and Xbox, which are also expected the fall of 2020. What this means is that rather than getting 3 years to make their next game after Black Ops 4, Treyarch will have just 2 years. Some at the company are saying that they are not not pleased about that and are already bracing for brutal overtime hours like they faced the last year on Black Ops 4. Others have told Kotaku they're excited about the change as they have a solid game plan, and that isn't likely to change drastically. Unlike their last two projects, we'll have more to share about Treyarch and the development of Black Ops 4 in the coming weeks. So, yeah, the article does go on here a little bit longer. I'm not going to read the entirety of it. I will link it down below if you're interested in checking out the rest for yourself. But definitely a lot of unfortunate or maybe potentially good news here. I mean, honestly, let's be real here. None of this is good. And I think that this points to a bigger problem within the industry, but just focusing in on Call of Duty here, there's some people maybe who are still like really big Call of Duty fans who really enjoy the Black Ops series, who are maybe excited at the notion that we're going to get Black Ops 5 a year sooner. But you have to understand that, when things like this happen, it's not good. There's a lot of stuff going on right now within Activision that really is just creating clearly a lot of tension. As we know with Sledgehammer Games, anybody who's familiar with them, the two lead developers, Michael Condrey and I forget the other guy's name, but I know that he was, they're like the creators of Dead Space, and they were kind of ousted, I guess. They were just kind of pushed aside by Activision and eventually, quietly let go. And ever since that happened, it seemed like Sledgehammer Games has just been losing a lot of developers. From what I've been hearing, a lot of talented developers who were once part of Sledgehammer actually are leaving to join Michael Condrey in his new studio that he's starting up with 2K Games, because he now has that opportunity. And so you have to imagine that if they're losing developers left and right, how are they going to create a AAA game in time, right? Because next year's title after Modern Warfare 4 is supposed to come from Sledgehammer Games, and clearly they're just not able to do it. So bringing on Raven Software, who I believe are the ones who made Modern Warfare Remastered or worked on that, and I think they did a great job, to help support them and kind of have a double team thing going on here. And apparently they're clashing and things are just not going well. So suddenly Activision has to say, hey, Treyarch, even though your game isn't set to come out until 2021 and you were supposed to have an extra year of development, well, now we're cutting that down. You're going to have it ready, basically within a year and a half, and rather than 2.5 years. And so it just really all kind of screams disaster. It does sound like a huge mess, and you heard here that some employees are feeling pretty terrible because now it means they're going to have to do double the amount of work, because they have a significant less amount of time to get that work done. But apparently you also have some employees sitting here saying that it's not going to be that big of a deal. They already have their plan. I will say the only thing that really kind of appeals to me from what I'm hearing here is the fact that it may be set in the Cold War. I think about Black Ops 1, and there's no doubt in my mind that one of the biggest reasons that game was amazing, in my opinion, was the setting. And if they go back to that, I think they may have a good chance here to actually do something great. But, I feel like Activision is truly the problem here, because if I'm being honest, there is in my opinion, very simple solution to this, to make Call of Duty a great franchise again, and to make it something that people actually genuinely feel excited about, and that the gaming community can really feel like they can celebrate rather than just sigh and point and laugh when a new entry is announced, because they know that not only is it going to be probably a half-baked game because of the stress and the time frame that these developers have to bring out these titles year after year, but they know it's going to be filled to the brim with just microtransactions that nobody wants, nobody cares for, and frankly just ruin the entire experience. When they're adding free-to-play type of microtransactions in here in a full-fledged $60 game, there's a lot wrong with that. But I think the simple solution, honestly, is Activision needs to take a step back and realize if you need to rely on Call of Duty as your bread and butter franchise, that's bad within itself. You should have more things around you that you can rely on, other IPs. but they're in a situation where Call of Duty is basically their bread and butter. You cannot milk it this way and expect to see the financial results that you've seen in the past, because it just doesn't work that way. I mean, we're going on, I don't even know how many years now, getting a Call of Duty title every single year, and these developers are having to, crunch harder and harder just to meet these, deadlines that shouldn't be there. Give Treyarch the time they need. If they're going to make Black Ops 5, give them the time they need to really make it something great, and don't ruin it with microtransactions. As excited as I am, again, about Modern Warfare 4 here, and a return to that series, I mean, I want to be excited. And frankly, I am going to be excited until I see it for myself. And if there's something there, which I'm sure there will be, that makes me feel like, well, they ruined it somehow, fine. But I don't know, man. Like, Activision as a company, they have proven that they are some of the worst in the industry, if not the worst. They're just as bad as EA. And they get away with a lot of stuff, though. Like, that's the thing. Like, they don't get nearly as much hate thrown towards them for some reason. And maybe that is because the audience that supports Call of Duty is a more casual audience. But I know that there's a lot of Call of Duty fans, just like myself, who think back to the golden era of these games, and before microtransactions were really a thing, and we actually got proper DLC. And Activision has always been greedy. Activision has always been a company that's been money hungry, but back during the time of like Call of Duty 4 and Modern Warfare 2 and Black Ops 1, things were just not nearly as messed up as they are now. I mean, if you go look at Black Ops 4, it's a disgrace, honestly, with the type of microtransactions and the type of content they're adding to the game. Just this meaningless fluff that's just there to just squeeze, penny pinch and squeeze as much out of their current player base as they can. It needs to stop. Like, nobody's saying you can't support your game. Nobody's saying you can't add content to your game and charge money for it. What they need to realize is that if you're going to do that, it needs to be meaningful. And trying to maintain this balance where you're going to have a new game every year and you're going to support that game for 3 years, and you're going to have developers just constantly crunching and creating this nonsense content that nobody wants, what do you expect to happen? I just don't have a lot of faith in the future of Call of Duty. I haven't had faith in Call of Duty in a long time. Again, the best Call of Duty experience I've had in the past 5 years was probably playing Modern Warfare Remastered, and that says a lot in my opinion of where we are with the franchise. Now, I'm excited to see Modern Warfare 4. I'm interested to see how Treyarch is planning on pulling this off with Black Ops 5, how Activision plans on not having a complete disaster on their hands. Who knows? Maybe if things keep getting worse, because it seems like there's a good chance they could get worse, maybe there's a chance this is the first time that, Activision will say, we can't release a Call of Duty in 2020. We just can't. We risk completely ruining and completely tarnishing the name and the brand of Call of Duty, even though in a lot of people's eyes that's already occurred. But maybe they feel like we just really can't do it this year because it's just not ready. There's no game there. You know what I mean? Maybe there's a chance that could happen. And I think that would be good. Maybe that would be good. But I don't know, guys. I thought this was very interesting news. Again, I know it's not what I normally talk about on this channel, but hey, it's something to talk about. So be sure to leave your thoughts down in the comments below. What are your thoughts and feelings on Call of Duty today in 2019? What are your thoughts and feelings on Modern Warfare 4, being announced as this year's Call of Duty, or going to be announced as this year's Call of Duty? And what do you think about this news that Call of Duty 2020 is basically in shambles right now, and we're going to be getting a rushed Black Ops 5? I will be interested to see what you guys have to say. Be sure to leave this video a like if you did enjoy the commentary. If you enjoy the content, it really helps. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share the video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.